Academy Award-winning filmmaker Billy Wilder nearly came out of retirement to direct this movie, but was refused final cut by Paramount. When Wilder was briefly attached, it was also reported that Jack Lemmon was also attached in an undisclosed role. Director-writer Danny Steinman was originally offered a 2-picture deal to direct the Friday the 13th sequel, as well as the Last House on the Left sequel, the latter ultimately falling through. At that time, Steinman had just made his official directorial debut with Savage Streets. However, he'd actually been working in exploitation cinema under very different names in 1973, starting with the hardcore sex comedy High Rise. That was Steinman's only adult film. This was the last film directed by Danny Steinman. In order to keep the storyline a secret, the film was originally called The Repetition, after the David Bowie song of the same name. Several of the other Friday the 13th films have used Bowie songs as fake titles. The film was originally written to have Corey Feldman as the star, reprising the role of Tommy Jarvis. However, he was already working on The Goonies, therefore the script was rewritten to have Feldman's appearance limited to a cameo. Corey Feldman's scenes were shot in the backyard of his house. John Shepherd would be cast to play Tommy Jarvis. John Shepherd researched the role of Tommy by working at a state mental hospital. He also wore cowboy boots in order to look taller. Mark Venturini was considered for the role of Tommy, but he was cast as Vic instead. Melanie Kinnaman was cast as Pam Roberts. Melanie and director Danny Steinman did not get along during the making of the film. Kinnaman claims that Steinman was hostile and unapproachable as a director. Shavar Ross was cast as Reggie. Richard Young was cast to play Dr. Matthew Letter. Sherilyn Fenn was considered for the role of Violet, but turned it down to do just one of the guys. Tiffany Helm would be cast to play Violet. Gina Gershon was considered to play the role of Tina. Darcy DeMoss was originally hired for the role of Tina, but she was fired after refusing to perform the nude scenes required for the role. DeMoss would appear in the next installment of the franchise, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 6. Deborah Voorhees, who coincidentally shares her real surname with Jason, was cast for the role of Tina. Deborah Voorhees was later fired from jobs as a teacher in 2 high schools due to her students discovering her nude scenes in this movie. Miguel Nunez was cast to play Demon. In her audition for the part of over-the-top hick Ethel, Carol Locatel wore a wig gifted to her by Burt Reynolds for her time playing a prostitute in his movie Sharky's Machine in 1981. The New Beginning people loved it, especially the part where she could provide her own wig. Ron Sloan would be cast to play Junior. Bob DeSimone was cast as Billy. Rebecca Wood was cast as Lana. John Robert Dixon was cast as Eddie. Jerry Pavlon was cast as Jake. Juliette Cummings was cast as Robin. Ted White, who played Jason in Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, stated in interviews that he was offered the opportunity to reprise the role in this sequel, but turned it down. White also stated that he regretted that decision. Dick Wieand would play Roy Burns, the imposter Jason. Although actor Dick Wieand is credited for the role of Roy/Jason Voorhees, it is actually stuntman Tom Morga who appears in the scenes featuring the imposter Jason, as well as those with the hallucination of Jason which haunts Tommy. Dick Warlock served as stunt coordinator, who also played Michael Myers in Halloween 2 and brought Tom Morga aboard. Harry Manfredini would once again compose the score for the film. The movie's title, A New Beginning, was chosen because it had been decided that Tommy would become the killer after his encounter with Jason in Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, which was alluded to at the end of that film. Danny Steinman was instructed to do 2 things with this movie: to deliver a shock, scare, or kill every 7 or 8 minutes, and more importantly, to turn Tommy into Jason. The ending with Tommy about to kill Pam was not originally meant to be interpreted as a dream, and was instead intended to show that Tommy had gone crazy after his encounters with Jason. However, this plot twist was abandoned when fans demanded Jason's return, and thus he was resurrected in Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 6. Had this film gone down well with fans, the producers would have brought John Shepherd and Melanie Kinnaman back for a direct sequel. Violet was originally to be killed by being stabbed in the crotch with a machete while exercising. However, the producers found Violet's original cause of death to be tasteless, and thus it was changed to the one depicted in the movie. 3 different hockey masks are featured in the film. The first is the one which the Jason imposter Roy wears, which has 2 blue stripes on either side of the mouth. The second is the one the real Jason wears when Tommy sees him in the hospital room at the end, which has 1 red triangle above the eyes. The third is featured on the poster, and it is an entirely different hockey mask, with more breathing holes on it. This one is never used in the film. The scene of Lana and Billy was originally written for Friday the 13th, the final chapter, but for unknown reasons wasn't used and put into this film instead. Deborah Voorhees' original sex scene was much longer and much more graphic. The film's editor, Bruce Green, was told by producer Frank Mancuso Jr. to trim the scene and make it look like a Pepsi commercial. 1 month prior to the film's release in the United States, the MPAA demanded that 16 scenes featuring sex or graphic violence be edited in order to merit an R rating instead of an X. The film ultimately required 9 trips to the MPAA before finally being granted an R rating. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning was filmed entirely in California. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning opened on March 22, 1985. The film debuted at number 1 on its opening weekend with a gross of $8 million. By the end of its run, the film would have earned $21 million at the domestic box office, placing it at number 41 on the list of 1985's top box office earners. The film squared off against strong genre competition throughout the first half of the year from such high-profile horror releases as Cat's Eye and Life Force. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning was the second poorest performing film in the Friday the 13th series at the time, with a steep decline from the previous 2 entries, both of which had made well over $34 million in the US. In addition to weak box office returns, most critics gave the film negative reviews. In later years, much like the series in general, the film has obtained a cult following. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning was released on VHS on September 28, 1994, and on DVD on September 25, 2001, and on Blu-ray on June 16, 2009, and featured in the book Crystal Lake Memories, The Complete History of Friday the 13th, released in 2005, and the DVD and Blu-ray version of the book, released on September 13, 2013, and released in the box set on September 13, 2013. I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. Join me next time as we take a brief look at Friday the 13th, Jason Lives.